Hey there. Today I am here with Emily Manuel. Emily is a registered holistic nutritionist, yoga teacher, and founder of Plant Forward Nutrition. She has a passion for helping people discover the foods and wellness habits that will allow them to feel their best and cultivate a healthy relationship with food and their body. You can find Emily consulting with clients at Starr Wellness, giving wellness workshops all over Ottawa when we're allowed out of the house, or sipping on coffee while writing for her blog, which you should definitely check out because there is some great stuff in there. Um, Obviously, with Plant Forward Nutrition, Emily is a little more plant-based. There are some excellent recipes that, as somebody who isn't particularly plant-based, I still love to do up. So definitely give Emily check her out. We'll be linking to everything Emily does, her blog, her social media in the show notes. After that long rant, welcome, Emily. It's great to have you here.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited. Thanks for the warm welcome. And I'm glad you tried some of my recipes.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, honestly, they're well worth trying out. And a lot of the ones you've been doing lately are just like stuff that most people happen to have in their pantries anyways, so that you don't have to really go out and get anything too crazy.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to do that, more kind of comfort food, especially during this time. I think we're all reaching for things that make us feel a little, more comforted, I guess. And so just trying to stick with recipes like that.
Oh, absolutely. And it's yeah, such a strange time that it's nice to be able to make something familiar. And I know for a lot of people, I think it's there's been a lot of cooking where there hasn't been, or baking where there hasn't been. So like people are getting back to having time and energy, or just being bored enough to really force themselves to do it. So really nice that you've got all that going. It's frankly, I think it's a great resource. I've really enjoyed it so far.
Oh, thank
Now,
you.
obviously, with everything you're doing a fair bit of baking at this point and cooking, from what I've seen.
hmm
How are you really spending your time during this shutdown, where we aren't really able to leave the house? You're not able to do your workshops so much.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely trying to bring everything online as much as I can. And also just for my personal daily life, just trying to kind of take this time to slow down, to kind of tune in more to myself, and take time to, enjoy my coffee in the morning before I get my day started, and actually also cook every single meal that I'm eating, and just kind of playing around with food and doing some different recipes and trying to use everything that I already have in my cupboard to create some delicious food. So
Well, that sounds like a pretty good way to spend it, all in all.
yeah, I
And
guess so. Eating a lot, I guess. You
well,
could say.
it can happen. Now, being said, as a nutritionist, how do
Mhm.
you sort of reconcile? Because I mean, not that what you're eating is necessarily like horrible fried food or anything like that, but how do you reconcile all the baking you're doing with the nutrition aspect of your life? Because the two don't always go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's so true. And I do have some inner conflict sometimes with those two kind of ideas. But I'm definitely all about kind of intuitive eating. And so, especially right now, when a lot of us are in more of a stressed state, perhaps, life has changed and we're all feeling a little bit possibly uncertain. We don't really know what's going to happen. I'm a huge fan of kind of leaning into that and eating in accordance to kind of how I'm feeling. And so if, one morning I'm feeling like eating some toast, which maybe I don't normally eat as often, I'll try and kind of listen to that. And then the next morning, maybe I'll turn to a smoothie, but just kind of going with how my body's feeling and how I'm feeling overall, I think is a really good approach to feeding ourselves, especially during this time of uncertainty.
Now, how do you? Because I know personally, there is a little bit of a skill you've got to develop, or almost like an inner knowledge of what is really sort of your intuition.
hmm
Because for some people, again, I'm going to be the one guilty of this. If I were to eat intuitively, I'd be sort of probably on my like 10th burger today, with the donut bun and dripping in cheese, which
Right.
not going to be that beneficial for me. So how do you figure out sort of what's intuitive eating and what's just you wanting to eat like crap?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so for intuitive eating, there's definitely that space where people say they kind of get fearful. Like, you know what, if I'm going to allow myself to eat whatever I want to eat, I am going to eat the double cheeseburgers filled with bacon, and I'm going to eat them over and over and over and over again. And I think that's kind of our mentality when it comes to food, because I think a lot of us live in a world of restriction around food, and we live with a lot of labels, a lot of I can't do this and I shouldn't do that. So when we start to eat intuitively and kind of tune into the body signals, the first thing is to actually sit with yourself and ask yourself, are you hungry? And so it's taking the time to slow down. And it all starts with our body first. It starts with our brain and gut connection. And so when we take the time to actually say, okay, am I actually hungry? What do I want to feed myself? And what am I kind of looking for out of the food that I'm going to be reaching for? When we start to learn about our narratives around food and tune in more to our inner kind of narratives, I think we can start to release some of that restriction and some of that fear that comes from food and those thoughts of fear, like eating all of the mass amounts of cheeseburgers or whatever it is. And we can start to trust our body and trust our intuition to say, you know what, maybe today I'm going to eat 2 double cheeseburgers with cheese. And that's okay. And then maybe tomorrow I'll just eat 1, or maybe tomorrow I won't want any. So it's really, it's definitely a practice of trust, and it's a practice that has to be developed over time. But it's really just, learning to dive into this intuitive mechanisms that we have to feed ourselves.
That's actually a really good answer. So this is going to be something I assume you work with a lot of the clients that you've taken on in plant forward nutrition.
Yes.
Are there specific exercises that you might have people go through or kind of guide them through, coach them through?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a fan of food journals. Now, not a kind of a food diary, and it can be a food diary. However, my food journals that I work with, one-on-one with clients, I ask them to write down how they're feeling before they eat. And I ask them to take that moment, sit with themselves, how am I feeling, write that down, and then whatever food they're grabbing for in that moment, without judgment, I tell them to write it down and then kind of tune into our hunger signals. So I'm sure you probably know that we have the 2 hunger signals. We have ghrelin and leptin. And we have these mechanisms that are built into our body to let us know when we're hungry and when we're full. And a lot of times I think we override that because we just want to eat the burger, we want to eat the pizza, and we get so enthralled in the taste that we kind of forget that our body is actually sending us signals. Or alternatively, you can go with things like emotion. So maybe you could be bored, and instead of doing a puzzle, you reach for food. And I think this is something that a lot of people battle with. So actually taking the time to sit with yourself before you eat, and then eat without judgment, and then write down what you're feeling after you've eaten the food. And also write down if you noticed your hunger signals. So did you finish eating once you were full? Did you finish eating when you were really, really full, or maybe even before you became full? And continuing to do this practice every time you eat can just bring awareness to the act of eating. And it can really help put you in a mindful space when you're going to eat, and can also bring that connection between the emotions, the brain, and how we're kind of feeling and fueling ourselves.
I really like that. I might actually steal that over the next little while. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a lot of time, so it would be a good time to take the opportunity to sit down with yourself that way and pay a little more attention to what you're eating in that way and how it's impacting you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm kind of enjoying myself this time in this space that we're all kind of as a collective slowing down. And so there's definitely different things that we can all do on many levels. But specifically with food, I think this is, like you said, a really great time to slow down and check in with ourselves and to ask these questions. Am I hungry? Am I full? Why am I even eating? Why am I reaching for the foods that I normally reach for? And just tune into the body. I think it's a really neat time to be doing that for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and you're doing it in a couple different ways right now, because you've also, on top of the nutrition aspect of your life, you've also got the yoga aspect of your life, which
Mm-hmm.
most yoga practice will involve at least some amount of trying to connect with your own body, and in a similar vein as what we're doing nutritionally. connect and see what's going on. So how has the yoga piece been over the past couple weeks?
Yeah, that's true. And I think I became a nutritionist before I became a yoga teacher. And I think, the more, this is kind of going on a tangent, and I'll get back to your question soon, but just to kind of give you a backstory, the more I worked with people and worked with them on a nutrition level, I realized how much the brain plays a part in how we eat. And so the practice of yoga has always been something that I personally have been into, but I wanted to learn more about the mechanics kind of the body and more of the mind, body, spirit stuff, if you will. And so I wanted to be able to bring that practice also into my nutrition world. And over the past few weeks, I personally have definitely been doing a lot of yoga since I'm stuck at home. Well, safe at home, not stuck at home. And I have, been trying to tune in with myself and also share some videos with people that follow me on the social media on how we can connect with our breath and how we can connect with our body, which ultimately will teach us tools, to lean into when we're trying to connect with our emotions and our body and food. So it definitely all plays a part, and I definitely like to kind of meld the two worlds together because I do think that they fit really well together, especially when working with people. But I've definitely been doing a lot of yoga these past few weeks.
Well, and no better time, really. Now,
yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
In combining yoga and nutrition with different clients, I know you said it worked well, but what kind of things are you noticing?
I'm noticing so I think when it comes to food, a lot of times we see food, and this is going to sound really simple, but we see food as just food. But I really love when I work with clients and I incorporate the mindful aspects, the intuitive aspects, the kind of tuning into the body, slowing down. And I love seeing the light bulb in my clients when they realize, oh, wow, food is much more than just food. And so much of how I'm eating has really nothing to do about the food, but it has so much more to do with my inner world, my emotions, and, my thoughts. So that's a really interesting and really cool thing to work with people on. I really love when they kind of, that moment clicks and they feel, I think, more in control of eating in an interesting way. Yeah.
Maybe not what I would have expected you to say, but that is that's really neat, actually.
Yeah.
So, and because you get to combine this in a way where I haven't seen many people combining it either. I don't know if you being in that specific industry, you know that it's completely unique, or if you're modeling off somebody else, but that's a really neat way of bringing some different control and awareness to things.
Yeah.
Sorry. With all that, like, are there any things that you have found that you've been doing? Because obviously producing content and whatnot, you're still working to an extent, as much as a lot of it's just sort of videos and social media and unpaid work at this time. Anything that you've found that you're doing that's been really instrumental in kind of keeping yourself mentally there?
For my own practice,
Yeah, for you yourself.
Yeah. You know what, when this all started, so let's say about 3 weeks ago, when we really, all kind of, this became a really important thing. I just took some time to do not a lot. And that was really hard for me. I'm definitely a person, I'm a doer. I love to be in front of people. I love doing wellness talks. I love meeting people. I love working with people. And the idea that I couldn't necessarily do that in the same way that I was doing it and that I was so excited and passionate in was really hard. And so I took about a week to just kind of sit with that and acknowledge that life has changed, and hopefully at some point I will go back to that. But I think just allowing myself the space to kind of grieve that really helped me, because now, let's say 2 weeks later, I'm feeling definitely more inspired. I'm keeping up with my own personal practice, my own yoga practice. I'm also, again, using intuitive eating in my own life. So if, I wanted to make a batch of cinnamon buns with sugar in it, I'll allow myself to do that. And then, eat a salad later. So I'm finding balance and also playing with my own inner emotions and my own inner thoughts in this time, and just kind of acknowledging them and becoming aware of them. And I'm finding it really fascinating. So I think what I'm doing is just kind of allowing myself to go through the motions of this time and kind of just sit with that.
I think that's a great way to do it. And yeah, frankly, I know with the extra time that we've kind of been given here, that's been something that's been really important for me too, is just making sure I'm carving out that time to do some introspection, some meditation, some journaling, really get in touch with what I'm feeling through all this. And, some of it is stuff that I had done before, but I think with the extra time, I'm just kind of giving myself more space to do it now. And in a lot of ways, it's been almost a really, as much as everybody's financially uncertain as to what's happening, and I'm missing, in a similar vein, that passion that comes from work,
Mm-hmm.
as you are. It's been really helpful as just a time so far. I'm sure after a month or two I'll get bored of it, but to sit back and really, look at what's been going on. How am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want to eat 13 cheeseburgers in a day? What's been going on with me? And I do think that there's a big opportunity to take this time and be able to come out better than we went into it. As much
Mm-hmm.
as everything's unfortunate, and it's sort of unprecedented that this is happening, I think it also offers opportunity for growth and development in that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I love that you're doing the journaling and taking the time, even more time than you did before, to kind of sit with yourself. Because I think it's really important to realize that this is something a lot of us have never dealt with before. And these emotions that we're feeling, whether they're negative or positive, are completely normal. And taking the time to kind of sit with that and become aware of that, I think will do us better in the long run, like you said. And hopefully we're all going to come out of this even better, stronger, maybe more emotionally aware human beings than we were before we kind of came into this space of uncertainty.
Well, time will certainly tell, but
Yeah.
I appreciate that you've come on to help sort of offer some tools for people to use, and give a little bit of your own experience, because I know that there are a lot of people who some of this is going to be brand new for. Some of looking
Mm-hmm.
into the concept of food as more than food. Food is, do I eat emotionally? Or you know I've been stuck on the couch all day, can I do yoga? Which, again, I know you're posting some videos, so we'll make sure there's some links to that if people are looking
Mm-hmm.
for some inspiration in terms of that, or just a lot of it's brand new to a lot of people, so trying to offer those tools and ideas for directions to go are going to be really helpful. Being
Yeah.
said, thank you so much for sitting down with me. It is great to talk to you. And one more time, I'll make sure everything is linked in the show notes so that anybody looking for Emily can really easily find her.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on.